The Men, Buyer Beware, album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest record from Brooklyn punk and indie outfit, The Men. And believe it or not, this is like their 10th album. And they are a band that in their early years, they're a band that meant quite a bit to me. As a matter of fact, for many years, they were one of my favorite bands in the world. They were initially a no-wave and noise rock outfit. You could hear it all over their technical studio debut, Immaculata, but shortly after they really did set down a much more ambitious path that I was completely obsessed with. Leave Home really took things to the next level. It had the animalistic and raw vibes of their debut, but a lot more streamlined. But let me tell you, it was the Open Your Heart record that really did just blow my mind completely. This album had everything for the band, from their noisy and wild and sweaty beginnings, but also had nods of all country and shoegaze. And personally, I've always thought their follow-up to it, New Moon, is almost just as good. It has some of their best tracks on here, like I Saw Her Face and Half Angel, Half Light. Yet for a while, the band was kicking on all cylinders, but around the time of their Tomorrow's Hits record, the Men started taking a different direction. Gone were the days of punk rippers and all-country ballads. No, this record was just a low-down, dirty rock and roll record, and I like it for the most part. It's got some really great tunes on there, and on tracks like Dark Waltz and Pearly Gates, it's wildly effective, but I've always thought that this was a little bit of a transition record for the Men, and my only issue with the Men is over the next few years, they put out quite a few sort of transition records where they tried a lot of different things, and not a lot of it seemed to stick. Some of these directions would work nicely, like on Devil Music. I think this one's pretty underrated. It's nasty, it's gnarly, and it's pretty bluesy too. But then the Drift album it's such an odd one, because the second half of this record has some really great ideas, but the first half of this record has some of the most boring tracks the Men have put to tape. It seemed like another transition record, as was 2020's roots rock inspired Mercy. And once again, I thought it was okay. I thought it was really decent at the end of the day. There's some really great moments on here. There's some really cool jams, but there's also not a lot of direction to it. Now, I will say this, 2023's New York City, I thought this was the best work that the Men had done in quite some time. It wasn't perfect, but we did get the sweaty energy, we got the country ballads, and it seemed like the Men were kind of getting their head on straight. Now, leading up to this one here, I mean, I've been really excited, but mostly more curious than anything. The singles they've been dropping sound like just really great old school Men singles, and what we have got is a pretty awesome punk record over here. This album starts off with Pony, and let me tell you, the Men are not wasting a single second. I have enjoyed this track since it dropped as a single, even though I think my thoughts were I just needed to hear more of it to make sure it was the real thing, and yeah, it is. It's a wild-eyed, urgent, sweaty garage punk tune with sweat to spare. And much like most of the other Men tracks, this track's hook will have you humming it all damn day. It's a great start to this record, and it's a sign of things to come. It's the kind of raw and noisy track that I didn't think the Men still had in them, but very clearly they do. I really do love At the Movies as well. I can't tell you just how hyped I am by these cuts. This track just sounds like, I don't know, like a cannon just got fired off. The winding guitars, the off-the-rails feel, the frantic energy. Yeah, this is far and away the most unpredictable release from the Men, maybe since the New Moon days. Also, I really do love the pianos on the hook. It really does bring this track together and gives this track a little personality. It's one of my favorite deep cuts here. Also, really love Buyer Beware, this album's title track. This one might be a little bit more on the rails, but it's a little gruff. It's a little rough and tumble. I love how bluesy this track gets as well. It takes me back to some of the better moments on Devil Music. And they do this sound a lot of justice. This track comes off like a damn mission statement for the entire record. The group chorus is powerful. The riff is one of the most memorable here. I love this. Fire Sermon is one of the most fired up and punk-centric tunes here. Don't blink, it's less than a minute. This riff doesn't slow down if you asked it to, and the energy of this track will get you up and grooving, probably in the pit. The solos are never ending, it's a little angsty. Everything about this cut excites me. It's short, it's sweet, it's the men doing what I thought that they couldn't right now. Also, love P.O. Box 96. Let me tell you, I've been listening to this track a freaking lot. It's got some great nods to post-hardcore. I love the dual vocals as well, and just how this is. I mean, God, they don't sound like a band that's on their 10th record. It's pretty goddamn raw at the end of the day. It's a real old school punk rager, and it is good. I would name it my favorite single of the record, but of course they had to release the Charm single the day before this album dropped, and I've been listening to it basically non-stop ever since. This track's like activating a cheat code for me. This is the kind of timeless single that I'll always love from the men. It's upbeat, it's got that rock and roll spirit, but it also does have a little energy to it. Sunny synths, great dual vocals, maybe the most incredibly infectious hook here, as well as some nods to alt country. I mean, come on. It's the best track here, one of the best singles the men have put out in a very long time. I mean, halfway through this record, they haven't missed yet. Now, I will say this, for the most part, they really do nail this record. I love this thing. This is probably going to be one of my favorite punk releases of the year. Things do get a little, and I do stress, a little faceless late in the album, like the Control track. I mean, this has been a pretty wild-eyed and hectic record that has kept me hooked since the word go. But this sounds like the men kind of overcompensating more than anything, like them just trying to be so wild and throwing everything at the wall, trying to see what sticks and nothing really does. They could just do a lot better. They have done a lot better on this record. And what is going on with the dry cycle interlude? Oh, come on, we didn't need that. Outside of that, I'm freaking loving this thing. This is a thing that longtime fans of the men will actually be really, really proud of. And just a really great record. Like Black Heart Blue, this one really kicks off the second half of this record with a bang. It's once again a little bit more on the rails, but it just doubles down on the danger aspect. It's got this nasty edge to it that is just so freaking memorable. And I hear tracks like this, and I just get this feeling that this is like everything that the men have to offer right now, and they're putting their all in, and I love that. Seriously gnarly guitar work on this thing too. It's an impressive track. We also have Nothing Wrong, and like, where are these tracks even coming from? There's a level of danger on this track that I've never heard from the band before. Between the tense riff and lines like, pray for peace, but don't pray for me, this track is straight up evil. And then once this track actually gets rolling, I mean, buckle up. It's so sweaty, it's so spontaneous. A lot of this record just sounds like it was recorded in one wild take, and I love that. Even the dramatic conclusion just gives me the damn chills. The Path is one of the most calculating and nasty cuts here. It's also one of the most haunted sounding cuts, especially with those vocals floating through the background. This is how you turn things down a few notches without really losing your footing. I'm impressed. It's a hell of a cut. It's just plain nasty. Tombstone is one more blast of throttling energy. The men don't really sound like they're, kind of taking things into a lower gear. They sound like they're just ready to pummel you some more. And if you've enjoyed this record up to this point, this is just another sweaty, wild-eyed, fist in the air punk anthem that you're gonna love. I'm impressed, and Get My Soul as a finale is one of the most chugging tracks on this record. The performances here are just so wild and animalistic. It's really impressive. It's just one last gut punch. It's got this sense of finality to it that is just really, really tasteful. I didn't think the men had this in them at this point, just because of the direction they were going in for a while, but very clearly they do, because this is one of the wildest, most unpredictable records I've heard from them since the early 2010s, which is wild. I mean, everything that you're getting here is pretty damn raw and wild and sweaty and just in your face. It's also got a lot of detours, if that was your thing when it comes to the men's early records. There's nods to quite a bit on this record, from post-hardcore to noise rock to some alt country as well. I mean, yeah, this thing rips. I'm feeling a very strong 8 on this record, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.